What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different and answer all of your questions. So yesterday I put out a Q&A box on my Instagram. If you're not following me, it's the same name on everything, Harry Shep Fitness. So go and do that. I answered some of them on my stories. Others I'm just going to answer now in a bit more detail. So everyone's question will get answered no matter how shit it was or no matter how irrelevant it was. So let's see what we got. I haven't even read through these, so this could go anywhere. Question 1, will I still gain weight if I'm just doing body weight exercises and eating? So I think I answered this one on the stories. You will gain weight if you are eating more, but if you're just doing body weight exercises, you're likely to gain fat. So I don't know what this obsession with not going to the gym is and not doing resistance training is, but it needs to stop. We need to educate people that going to the gym and resistance training is the way to build strength and to build muscle. If you then compound that with eating right, then you'll build muscle and you'll gain the productive weight that you're looking for rather than gaining fat or whatever else. Question 2, I've injured my latissimus dorsi. Playing golf, best way to enhance the healing process as I have PGFA. First of all, stop playing golf because it's shite. But for more actionable advice, you're going to have to rest. Unfortunately, you're probably going to have to ring up the careers office, push that date back ever so slightly and get yourself rehabbed. So depending on how bad the strain is, some rest is going to be impactful there, and making sure you're doing some single arm banded lat pull downs just to build the strength back up, making sure you're training the opposite side, so single arm rows on your other side, single arm pull downs on your other side, so it can carry over strength back while you're resting the one lat that you've injured. But fundamentally, stop playing golf. Question 3, what's a typical day of eating? I don't film these because I don't think they're very productive. My diet changes and fluctuates no matter, depending on what I'm doing, depending on my work life, my training goals, all that sort of stuff. I try and just follow some simple basic protocols of getting enough protein in, which for me is 180 to 200 grams per day. I try and hydrate myself first thing in the morning, so delay caffeine for that first 90 minutes after waking to make sure the caffeine actually does something. I then cut caffeine off after 1 p.m. and then my other dietary requirements are just that I get 80% of my food from whole foods, all that sort of stuff. So that's pretty much it for nutrition. I'm not going to go through an entire day of eating. I mean, let me know if you really want me to do that in the comments. I can do, but it's something that I haven't really thought about doing because I think it's not very illustrative, because it means that you're just going to go and take that as a gospel thing that I have every day, even though it changes all the time. It's a little bit nuanced, and so I don't do blanket prescriptions on this channel. But let me know if you do want to see it, because I might do one. Got my PGFA on Wednesday, so pre-joining fitness assessment on Wednesday. Any last tips? So if you've got a PGFT or a course in a few days or in 7 days time, whatever, what can you do? So effectively the best use of your time is going to be resting, making sure that your body is recovered, mobilized, fueled and hydrated for that endeavor, whatever it may be. So that's going to look like, again, hydrating yourself, making sure you've got enough sleep, making sure you've got enough rest and mobility in, so body work, and then making sure you're increasing carbohydrates and sorting out that fueling aspect. So I've done full videos on this in the past. Go and click back through the channel and watch those. But effectively, 400 to 500 grams of carbs per day for most people, 2 to 3 days out, and then 3 to 4 litres for most people, 3 to 4 days out is going to be good to go. Making sure you got sleep, making sure you're not training all the way up until the date. Okay, next question. In the first week of ROP, recruit orientation phase, any tips for homesickness? Good question. I mean, luckily I didn't really suffer too much with that. I think trying to contact them as much as possible is number one, and effectively figuring that now you're, as Chad as it sounds, as cheesy as it sounds, now your family has now changed, all right? You're in a different environment, so leaning into those connections and those relationships with other lads on camp is going to be also a productive use of your time. Making sure that you're not just spending all of your mental energy or all of your cognitive energy thinking about family, thinking about the people that you're not with, and actually be present and be in those environments that you are in a physical sense. So again, leaning into that and making sure that you're making good connections to mask the cracks or paper over the cracks of homesickness, because you're going to have a distraction almost in the form of another lad that you're close with or whatever it is. So I think that's my best advice, is to get close with people in your troop, because they're the people that are going to be helping you through the next 8 months of training. So try not to ruminate on it too much, contact them as much as possible, but lean into those other relationships that you can build. Back squat rep range for the military, super quickly, anywhere between 3 and 12. There's not really a blanket prescription for this. Anywhere between 3 and 12 is going to be productive. Making sure you're manipulating load, intensity, rest periods, all that sort of stuff, but that's a whole nother video on its own. Is it worth joining the Royal Marines? A pretty broad question. Is it worth joining the Royal Marines? I would say yes, it's worth joining, but consider whether it's right for you. So whether it's right for you from a personality standpoint, whether it's right for you from a situation standpoint. You might be 30 with kids and having to give up a salary, etc. Right, might not be a good move. If you're 20 and you want to get a bit of life experience, you want to travel, you want to do this, you're not really sure about where you're going with your life, then yeah, absolutely, it can be a really good thing. It's given me a lot. Discipline, all the classic things that people attribute, opportunity, right, network. It's given me everything. So I would be remiss if I didn't recommend it, but also I think you have to take stock of some of the drawbacks of that career. Worth using creatine for military prep? Yes, just take my word for it. 5 grams a day, don't argue, don't listen to any other person who tells you anything different. That's what the science says, that's what the research says. Take 5 grams a day until you start training. Off you go. Should I bulk before joining the Marines to carry more weight or stay lean and mobile? So it's always a trade-off. You're going to need to be as heavy as possible to be as strong as you can, but you need to be light enough to move around. So you don't want to be 60 kilos and really nimble, really fast, but really weak. You also equally don't want to be 100 kilos and really strong, but unable to move. Okay, so it's somewhere in the middle. So it depends on your height, depends on where you carry muscle, how you carry load, all that sort of stuff. But the best advice, again, I can give you is to be an average weight. So again, for me, 5'8", 76 kilos works very well, where I can still be strong and I can still be moving fast. So that's going to be different for every person. So find that weight for you and lean into that. How many times did you think about quitting during Royal Marines training? All the fucking time. Every day. I hope that answers the question. David says, can you get away with being fairly skinny but strong when joining the Marines? This comes back to what we were saying before. Probably is the answer. That's what I would probably have classed myself as, pretty strong but super skinny. But you're always going to be better, again, being right in the middle of that spectrum in terms of super strong, super weak. We want to be right in the middle so that we can still be fit and aerobically efficient and all the rest of it. We can still move with good mechanics. What's more rewarding, training civvies or training soldiers? Good question. I never officially trained soldiers, so training civvies is cool. And I think training civvies objectively is good anyway, because you get different challenges. Not everyone has the same exact mindset, so you have to put different hats on to box around different issues. Okay, you have to kind of talk to people in different ways, approach things in different ways. In the military, dealing with soldiers, you can just deal with everyone in one prescriptive fashion, and it works. But that's not the case in the civvy world, so it's kind of a little bit nuanced in that regard. How to progress with the deadlift? Increase frequency, increase load over time, and if there's a technical issue, then let's figure out what that is first of all. So get your technique analysed and figure out where to push in terms of programming to get round that issue. All right, that's the easiest way to describe it in a 5-second snapshot. But again, I would identify where in the deadlift, in the lift, you are weakest and dial that in first of all, and then obviously increase the frequency. Focus on doing compound movements for RM training or isolation movements. Both. Should you do compound or isolation? The answer is always both. All right, making sure that you're progressively overloading, making sure that you're giving enough credence to compound movements, because that is the majority of your training. And then in your accessory pieces, you're going to be hitting single joint movements to shore up imbalances and do that kind of thing. When's the ultra? Good question. Don't know, haven't booked it yet. Harry says, key points for balancing cardio and strength training. Good question. So when you're balancing two disparate disciplines, we need to first of all get clear on the goal. If the goal is to be okay across the board, then fine. But if the goal is to be stronger, if the goal is short term is to be more fit, then we need to get clear on that first. We can then work backwards and figure out where we need to be putting our energy and placing our energy in the initial phases. So if the goal is a deadlift, a back squat, right now, we need to be focusing on strength and maintaining our aerobic capacity. If the goal is a 50k ultra marathon, we need to be focusing on aerobic stuff and maintaining our strength ability. So we have to get clear on the goal and work backwards from that. Hope that helps. That's a good question. Violent entry next week. Any tips? Just just one foot in front of the other and visualize that dominoes at the end. And make sure you're being switched on as possible. Did you ever consider reserves? Not really. I quite like what I'm doing. I quite like having the freedom to not really worry about having to answer to someone. And so obviously the reserves would give me the opposite of that. However, the sort of camaraderie and stuff that the reserves would offer is kind of cool. So never say never, but not right now. Is your program suitable for someone joining the Powers? Yes, absolutely. So people joining any aspect of the military can benefit from my programming, my generic programs that is, because as a base level, most of the selection processes are similar. Obviously there's nuance at the sharp end, but you can definitely benefit from just being fitter, stronger, more enduring, more robust, just following my Military Athlete Academy programming, which I think what you're on about. If you have a specific aim and you want a specific approach, then I have one-to-one coaching that you can also have access to where we can work around your specific aim. Okay, how do I keep my fingers together when doing the press-up test? Hold something between your fingers. How many people left your troop due to injury at CTC? Good question. Probably about 40%. 30 to 40%, something like that. That's pretty typical. It's a lot. It's a lot. How do you go about being ill on a training program? So I would always say, if you're ill, take a bit of time off until you are at least a 7 out of 10, all things considered, and then go back to training. There's no merit in training whilst you're ill. Remember that. Is it good to do high rocks alongside RM prep? Yes. So high rocks is very, very conducive to the kind of fitness you need to be tactical, to be, fit enough to join the military. Then I think you can do high rocks and be in a very good place to be doing, to be getting the raw materials you need to go forwards into military preparation. So yes, lean into high rocks is good. Tips for my RM interview. So make sure you've done your research. Make sure you know basic stuff, where the units are, what the units do, maybe where they're deployed, where they're based, what specification you personally want to go to, what specialization you personally want to do. And then from there, just looking at Victoria Cross winners and answers to specific questions they're going to ask you. So why do you want to join the Marines? Have you prepared physically for this? How have you done that? Etc. Obvious questions they're going to ask. Last two questions. Advice on losing your motivation but still knowing you want to do it. Fundamentally, you need support through the process. A lot of the time throughout this process, you're going to be alone. You're going to be not really knowing whether what you're doing is having the output you want. You need someone to support you in your corner to make sure they keep you right on the process, keep you trusting the process, and keep it interesting for you. That's what we do in our coaching. We make sure that we work closely with everyone to ensure that they remain engaged within the process to get to where they need to be. It's never going to be smooth sailing, but if you have someone, when you have these moments, to reach out to and to keep you right, then it's inherently valuable. There is no nobility in going it alone, okay? Just reach out for help if you need it and get some support where you require it. Last question. Is it bad to do the same exercises every day unless you're progressing? If you're progressing on the exercises each and every week, then no. You realistically could get a really, really, really solid physique and foundation from doing probably 6 to 8 exercises throughout a week. As long as you're training hard, as long as you're progressively overloading over time, you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, job done. Hope you enjoyed that, people. A little bit different. Short, sharp, no frills, just answering your questions, okay? Hope that was useful. Hope you took something from that. Drop a like, subscribe, etc. in the comments, and let me know what you want to see next.